Here, we're going to get riot warning. Going to try to get compliance, but this is now effectively a riot.
49 hours declaring it a riot.
5 to 50, be advised, Cal Police 1 advised trying to breach into the Capitol.
We have a breach of the Capitol! Breach of the Capitol! We need to hold the doors of the Capitol.
Welcome back, Warriors. It's me, Linda B. Thank you all so much for joining me here today. Today, we have got bombshell information about January 6th. Yes, there's been this information that's forthcoming right now. We're going to revisit some old footage and video with Nancy Pelosi, which you've probably already seen, but I want to pull all of this story together. Helping me with this, of course, I have video with Benny Johnson and Cashapp. But before we get into it, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, watch the video to the end. Now let's get into it.
Here, we're going to get riot warning. Going to try to get compliance, but this is now effectively a riot.
49 hours declaring it a riot.
5 to 50, be advised, Cal Police 1 advised trying to breach into the Capitol.
We have a breach of the Capitol. Breach of the Capitol. We need to hold the doors of the Capitol.
Was there in the Oval Office days before January 6th when the president executed his authority to authorize the National Guard. And we've covered that. He cannot order them. He cannot hijack the military and order them deployed domestically. After President Trump's authorization, we immediately sent the Secretary of the Army, who is responsible for the National Guard writ large, to Mayor Bowser and the Capitol Police controlled by then Speaker Pelosi, because as the governing authorities of the Washington District area, they have to make a National Guard request pursuant to a presidential authorization before the military can go ahead and deploy National Guard troops across anywhere in America.
So Donald Trump actually gave authorization that National Guard troops be released. He did that, but somehow it wasn't followed. Instructions, orders were not followed. Why is that? There was this coup, there was this intentional thing to, was it incompetence or was it something more nefarious? Was it more like a framing to make it look like Donald Trump was behind what happened? Who was really behind it? Who was given the authorization to make sure that everything was safe and did not follow orders? Let's look into this a little bit deeper. So I'm looking at X right now, and I see Representative Barry Loudermilk. It says President Trump directed senior DOD leaders to ensure events on J6 be safe. They ignored his guidance, prioritized optics, concerns over security, and pushed a flawed narrative in their IG report. The American people deserve the full truth. This is Barry Loudermilk, Representative Barry Loudermilk, and there are transcripts. There are transcripts out that show President Trump's directives to Pentagon leadership to have everything be safe on that day. Now, I've seen a lot of things come out about what happened on that fateful day at the Capitol over the past couple of years. Information has been coming out. You've got leaked video. You've got Nancy Pelosi taking full responsibility, saying she takes responsibility for things not being the way they should have been. And all of this is coming out. And why is it coming out right now? Why is it coming out right now? I'm glad it is coming out right now because I'm glad. I'm glad it is, as long as it does, because there's this false narrative that's been pushed by the media that Donald Trump orchestrated this whole thing because he could not accept the fact. It wasn't a fact, but he couldn't accept that he lost. And this was him. Although he's on record and on video saying peacefully and patriotically, he sent out this authorization on J 4th. But in any event, why was it not followed? Let's see where the break in the chain of command was. I am looking at information from thegellerreport.com, and it says previously concealed by the Biden-Harris administration's Department of Defense, the subcommittee has uncovered statements by key personnel involved in the deployment of the D.C. National Guard to the U.S. Capitol on J6. These new transcripts indicate that senior Pentagon officials unnecessarily delayed the D.C. National Guard response to the Capitol on J6 due to optics concerns. The Department of Defense, IG, claims that the actions at the Pentagon were reasonable in light of the circumstances at the Capitol on J6. The IG also determined that the Department of Defense officials did not delay or obstruct the DoD's response to the U.S. Capitol Police's request for assistance on J6. Now it says here, General Mark Milley admits that Trump ordered the National Guard. National Guard whistleblowers are now revealing Milley refused to deploy troops on J6. That was what? Intentional. They deliberately weakened security on J6 to ensure their setup and justify the regime's crackdown on Trump and MAGA. Why was this report buried by the J6 committee? When will Congress issue criminal referrals for them? Why is this not the biggest story in America? Now, this is from Steve Baker right here. It says, transcripts reveal President Trump did in fact notify top Pentagon officials of his desire for a National Guard deployment on J6. General Mark Milley, Chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff, the president just says, now this was on January the 3rd, 3 days before. It says the president, this is Donald Trump, saying, hey, look at this. There's going to be a large amount of protesters here on the 6th. Make sure that you have sufficient National Guard or soldiers to make sure it's a safe event. Hey, I don't care if you use guard or soldiers, active duty soldiers, do whatever you have to do. Just make sure it's safe. And this, again, is coming from Steve Baker. Now, we know that Mark Milley did not follow orders. And it seems, allegedly, it was intentional. And it looks like everything is coming together the way it should have been, and the timing couldn't be better. We've got an election, and the evil powers that be, all of their junk is coming to light. We know Donald Trump, and I knew it already months ago, way a while ago, that Donald Trump ordered National Guard. He made mention of it on January 3rd. He sent it through January the 4th. It was rejected. And he accused Nancy Pelosi of doing it in a CNN interview with Caitlin Collins. And she was like, Caitlin Collins, that's CNN, lefty network. And she would say, well, you're the president. You can't just throw it off on someone else. You're the president. They are chains of command that we need to realize that they do exist. And you don't just anticipate that someone is just going to directly go up against you. But there's plenty of signs of Nancy Pelosi just not being with Donald Trump. And in my mind, I need Donald Trump to be more aware of the fact that there are people around you in politics that don't like you, that want to set you up. This looks like something nefarious. This looks like an alleged setup. I'm careful with my words, but you know how I really feel about this thing here. This was all put together to keep this man out of office, to make sure he could never seek the highest office of the land ever again.
We have responsibility, Terry. We did not have any accountability for what was going on there, and we should have. This is ridiculous. You're going to ask me in the middle of the thing when they've already breached the inaugural stuff should we call the Capitol Police? I mean, the National Guard? Why weren't the National Guard there to begin with?
They thought that they had sufficient
That is
resources.
not a question of how they have been. They don't know. They clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more.
Of course, that was the video that was leaked, and that shows then Speaker Nancy Pelosi admitting that she takes full responsibility. There should have been more security. And she knew that there wasn't going to be any security because, according to Trump, she rejected it. So I guess she's trying to find an out, but then at the same time admits that she should have done more to protect the Capitol. See, this is why, things are not always what they seem when it comes to politics. We can't believe, what the media shows us. We can't believe the narratives. We have to dig deeper, much deeper, because right now, it is very clear that orders were not followed that could have prevented all of this. And more is going to come out. You best believe this is not the end. This is not the end. So I don't know what more proof we need to realize that things were not what they seemed. And I remember, of course, this was just a few years ago. I remember very clearly what I was doing. This was not even 4 years ago. And a friend of mine texted me, and this is when I had TDS. I'm thinking, okay, these crazy deranged Trump supporters are mad that their candidate lost. Okay, let's grow up, get over it. Okay, many years later, a few years makes a big difference in a person's life. I no longer am Trump deranged and support him, and realize what was happening in the media was absolutely false, tomfoolery. Okay, what happened to unbiased, truthful media? And I also left, if you guys saw my video on my sorority, it says on the thumbnail, God told me to leave. And I don't belong to that sorority, and I support Donald Trump. Look at all the difference a few years makes. But I bring that up to say this. More and more is going to be coming out about this whole thing with the Capitol. More and more is going to be coming out. And it was made to look like Trump is a nut. I'm not saying he's a nut. That's not what I'm saying, of course. I don't want anybody editing and say, she said he's a nut. Don't do me like to do Trump. But the fact of the matter is, they made it look like this whole thing to make this man look like he's unfit for office. Who are all the people behind this? They're unfit. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. You all be blessed. Love God, your families, these United States of America. And as they always say, march on, warriors.